I get really excited. I just kicked the camera. Oh my god. I'm so sorry. Welcome, if this is... Stick all over the mug. I cannot talk. I'm absentee because I can't talk. I can't talk. I need to just calm down because I'm too excited. Too excited to do a podcast. We shall muddle through as best we can. Hello everybody and welcome to Inside number 23, my podcast which is all about knitting and sewing and generally living a very crafty life. My name is Katie and you can find me on all of the social medias, so Instagram and Ravelry and occasionally Periscope, but it's been a while, as Miss Lavelli. And you can also find a Ravelry group for this podcast if you search in the groups tab, Inside number 23 podcast on Ravelry. And that's where you can find show notes for this episode, and also that's where you can get involved with things like giveaways and knit-alongs and sew-alongs and all of that good stuff. So I would recommend going over and joining if you haven't already. As always, I am coming to you from Hertfordshire, which is just north of London in the UK, where I live with my lovely husband Emrys and our ever so cute and snuggly little pug puppy Rolly. I just want to say a huge welcome if this is your first time spending a little bit of time with me. Welcome. I hope you enjoy the podcasting experience and obviously a huge welcome back to all of my long-term viewers. Thank you so much for checking in with me every week. It means so much, and let's have some fun again, hopefully. So it's been an interesting week here at Inside number 23. I uploaded a new video this week. It was a monthly favourites video for July, as we are coming to the end of July now. Can you believe it's August tomorrow? I can't quite believe it. Time is going by very fast this year, but I'm going to be doing a monthly favourites, which is going to be a quick video towards the end of every month where I talk about all kinds of things, not just knitting and sewing related, but what I'm watching, maybe what I'm eating, somewhere I've been, all kinds of fun stuff. It's just fun to mix things up a little and do something a little bit different. And in general, I think you all enjoyed the favourites video, so thank you for your really positive response to that. I've also been quite busy because not something that I've really talked about a huge amount on the podcast before, but the house that we live in, number 23, when we first purchased it, which is 2 years ago now, well, when we moved in 2 years ago, we've had the house for about almost 3 years? I don't know. I'm awful with these type of things, but it wasn't in the best state when we purchased number 23. It was very dilapidated and falling down. So before we even moved in, we had to do a lot of work. We knocked through walls and we put in a new kitchen and we had all of the floors redone. And so a lot of work has gone on this house. But we kind of had a bit of a plateau to do with all of our house DIY for a bit. And that has been awakened in me again recently. So I have been making lots of lists as to things that need to be done and starting to actually do things. I've been doing some painting in our hall landing and stairs, and we're getting ready to get our downstairs toilet done. It's all very exciting, but it does take up a lot of time. So it feels like it's been pretty hectic over the last week. I have been thinking about doing maybe a small sort of vlogging DIY home video series, maybe not something regular, but whenever we're doing something that is kind of fun, I thought I might share that with you. But I wanted to know what your thoughts are. If that's something that you're interested in watching, then do leave a comment below, or obviously in the Ravelry group, let me know if that's something you're keen on, because I can definitely throw something together to do with our lovely house. I love our house so much, and it really excites me to be getting it even closer to kind of being the perfect home that I want it to be. So yay for house DIY. The other exciting thing that's happened is that yesterday I went to Fibre Easty for the first time, which is a fibre festival in Bedfordshire in the UK. And I went with my mum, but I also met up with lovely Mina of the Knitting Expat podcast and Vero of Along the Lanes, and also Danny of Little Bobbins, who I didn't know was going to be there until the day, so it was really lovely to meet her as well. And basically that brings me to this episode. Is going to be a little bit different. Obviously, because I was at a fibre festival yesterday, I've got a lot of things to share, a lot of things that I want to talk about regarding that. So this episode is going to be slightly different in its regular structure. I am going to be sharing with you my knitting projects and my sewing projects and talking about some fun things to do with that, as I usually do. But then at the end of the podcast, rather than a general waffle section, which tends to go a little bit off topic, what I'm doing is I'm having a big chunk at the end of this podcast to talk all about Fibre Easty and also share some of the stash enhancements that I purchased, which was very exciting. Lots of things have happened this week that I would like to talk to you about. I received some really lovely parcels in the post, and I have some podcasts that I want to speak about, and also knit along updates and that type of thing. But I have decided, for the sake of time, because as you know I'm always pretty time conscious, and because I am going to be uploading a second video on this channel pretty much at the same time as this podcast, maybe slightly later, which is a vlog all about Fibre Easty. I decided to put those things to one side, all of those extra little bits and pieces that I also want to talk about, and I will be talking about those next week. I hope that all makes sense, but basically this episode is going to be fairly Fibre Easty, and then of course all of the videoing that I did yesterday is going to be an additional video that will be uploaded here as well. So forgive me if there are little bits and pieces that you're not going to be hearing about this week, but like I said, you won't have to wait long until I share those for you as well. So I think we should get started right away with what's on my needles. And I have some really fun things to share with you to do with knitting this week. I don't quite know how this has happened, but I feel like I've got more knitting done this week than I have in months. It really feels quite intense, the amount I've managed to do. But I think we should start off straight away with finished objects, because in case you haven't noticed, I'm wearing one. It is still a little bit warm to be wearing a cardigan, which is why this does not go at all with the outfit that I'm wearing. I'm wearing my Little Shop of Horrors themed dress under my Featherweight cardigan, but I had to just put it on to show you guys because I am so happy with how this has turned out. This is a pattern by Hannah Fettig that a lot of people have knit before, so you're probably aware of it by now. It is a top-down cardigan, very simple. It has quite an open finish to it, and I of course knitted it with my personal yarn pick of the month from my July favourites, which is Voolevine Yarns on her Volca base, and it is the Gashley Crumb colourway. And in case you haven't noticed by the way that I keep stroking my sleeves, this is just the most beautiful yarn base. It's an MCN base. You've probably heard me talk about this before, but you know, if it's your first time watching, it is merino cashmere nylon blend, and I am obsessed with it. I think it's probably my favourite project that I have finished this year. The Void shawl that I finished a little while ago is definitely up there, and it was pretty much my favourite project, but this has completely eclipsed it. So I'm going to stand up and so that you can get a better view. So this is my completed Featherweight. As you can see, it kind of sits just above my hip. So it is longer than the pattern specifies, but it is just amazing. I love it so much. In terms of the length of the sleeve, I did do them longer than was specified in the pattern, but to be honest, I think I even did them a little too long for myself. So I am kind of folding up the cuffs at the moment, but it does mean that I have the option, if I want to be super snuggly and just have my fingers poking out. But just for convenience at the moment, what I'm doing is just folding that over and having a really cute cuff, which I actually really like as a detail anyway, so that's fine. The pattern states that you can do this applied collar in stocking stitch, so the same as the body. However, the majority of versions that I have seen have gone for the rib stitching, so the 1x1 rib, which I've done on here. And the only problem that I had was that this edge has kind of popped up a little bit, and I might want to kind of reblock that slightly more aggressively to get a straighter edge. It's not so bad on this side, but I absolutely adore this project. It is so lovely, and I love it. It really is just beautiful, and more than anything, it's one of the first things that I've knit in a really, really long time that I know that I am going to wear all the time. And that to me at the moment, as you know, if you've watched the podcast previously, having a really wearable wardrobe full of handmade garments is what I'm really pushing for. I can't really wear it at the moment because it is just, even though it's grey, it's a touch too warm to wear wool. I am getting a little bit flushed from wearing this inside, so I'm probably going to take this off now. But I just cannot speak highly enough of this pattern. Hannah Fettig is my first Hannah Fettig design, and I'm a little obsessed now. I have a lot of her other projects. I'm eyeing them up for the future. The only changes that I made to this pattern, as I was saying, are the length of the body and the length of the sleeves, and also the amount of stitches that I added in at the armhole, because they were a little bit snug before, but otherwise it was exactly as the pattern. And I could very easily see myself making a whole plethora of these sweaters in different colours, just because it's such a functional piece, and it was just really, really fun to work on. And I'm really glad that I've got a finished garment. It's been a while since I've completed a proper garment, and I love it. Next up, finished objects, because yes, guys, I have more than one finished object this week. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. Is my artichoke bag, which is completely finished. And as I wanted, I had this finished for Fibre Easty yesterday, and I took it with me and I filled it up with yarn and lovely things. And as you can see, it's quite a bit bigger than it was. It has stretched out quite a bit, but to be honest, I am more than happy with that. I wanted it bigger. I wanted to be able to fit lots of things into it. So now that it has stretched out, if it gets any bigger, I will just give it a wash and reblock or something to make it a bit smaller, shrink it down a little bit, but I'm quite happy with it this size. I like that I can fit lots of things into it, and it was really, really lovely to carry around with me. I must say, a lot of people at Fibre Easty who stopped and said hello were asking me about my experiences working with this pattern, because this yarn is Quince and Co Sparrow, and that's a 100% linen blend. So it is linen, which is, by the way, since I've blocked it, so much softer. Oh my goodness, it's glorious. So all of you who are telling me that it would be different after I'd blocked it, you were so right and I was so wrong, and I'm a 100% convert to linen yarns now. It's just perfect and I really, really love it. The colours that I used were Port and Sans, which is this natural colour at the top. And yeah, I really, really love it. The pattern is by Pam Allen. And if you have never used linen yarn before and you're interested in how it might work for you, I would really recommend this pattern. Now that it's finished and I've already used it and it was great, I just think it's going to be my go-to kind of shopping bag. And it also folds up really nice and compactly, so you can just pop it in a bigger bag just in case you need a tote bag, shopping bag while you're out. So yes, another finished object. Already incredibly useful and totally my colour scheme. Got my Featherweight, and if I show you this, can you see? I totally have a colour scheme now, which is nice because I know that I'm making things that are all going to work with each other well, and it's just a really positive place to be. I'm feeling really happy about all of it. So yeah guys, 2 finished objects. I can't quite believe it. But it doesn't finish there, because in addition to finishing some things, I have also got a hoe this week. I know, it's insane. My hoe this week is this one. And this sock I started ages ago. It's actually for Emrys. These socks I cast on after I finished the first pair of socks that I knitted for him, which were just a simple vanilla sock self-striping. These are still self-striping. This is a Regia. It's called Snowflake, but the colourway is kind of all these greys and tans and blacks, and he loves them. But the pattern I have kind of adapted is the blueberry waffle pattern, which is a free pattern on Ravelry. So if you haven't done a blueberry waffle sock, you really should. They're really, really fun to do. I find them very addicting, which is probably why I have managed to finish this sock. I did adapt it because that is designed, I believe, for a DK weight sock. So I just changed it. I did my regular cast on. My favourite cast on for socks is 64 stitches, and then I do 20 rows of twisted rib because that's my personal preference for rib. And I then used the pattern of the blueberry waffle for the leg. In terms of the heel, I just did a slip stitch heel and then did my decreases into the foot, and I did this rounded toe, which is my personal favourite. They fit perfectly as well. When I was kind of finishing them up, I made sure that I was getting Emrys to try them on regularly. He has tried them on now, and he wanted a slightly shorter leg than I knitted for him previously, and so we did that. And to be honest, I prefer this length of leg. I have been knitting a lot of socks with very, very long legs on them. And I've realised that as a personal preference for myself as well, I prefer a sock that's got a shorter leg, as does Emrys. I'm feeling that I should maybe knit some Rose City rollers and see how I feel with those, because particularly in the summer, I think that those would be really cute with little plimsolls and skirts and shorts and that type of thing, rather than having full on, you know, winter socks all the time. But that was a complete and utter tangent. So yeah, I have the first one finished. I also have been very, very good and cast on the second sock right away. So I am on the leg of the sock still, haven't got any further than that. This is being knitted on my carbons, my DPNs carbons, 2.25mm carbons, which I absolutely love. Probably my favourite, one of my favourite, but definitely up there, DPN brand. They're just really fun to knit with. I really, really love them. So that is already on the way, and it's my current kind of go-to bedtime knitting project, just to pick up if we're going to watch TV or watch something before bed. I'll just knit a couple of rows on those, so hopefully it shouldn't be too long till I have the pair. I'm going to say something a little bit sneaky. So Emrys, if you are watching the podcast, I think you should skip on about 5 minutes or so, or just close your ears. But to be honest, Emrys, bless him, doesn't really tend to watch the podcast regularly, so I think that I'll be okay talking about this here. But basically, I'm going to be saving these socks up. I'm going to do a little sneaky thing and just pretend that I haven't finished them, or just not mention that I finished them when they're done. And I'm going to store them up for Emrys's birthday, which is at the beginning of October. He's turning 30, and my idea is to get him 30 presents. And that doesn't mean 30 big presents, because I'm not made of money. But I do want a lot of them to be handmade things. So knitted socks. I also want to knit him some hats, because he wears a lot of hats to work. And I've also got some sewing patterns in mind for things that I might try and make for him. But I just think it would be really lovely for such a big birthday to show that I've been thinking about him and making things for him. One thing that I would love to get done by his birthday is a Weasley jumper. I know that when I finished my own Weasley jumper, I said that I would be making one for him, and that might be a little more difficult because I'm not quite sure if I would be able to keep that secret because it'd be a really big jumper, but it would be lovely because then we can both wear them together when we go and see Harry Potter and the Cursed Child in December. But yes, that is one of my current works in progress for my lovely husband, and I'll obviously keep you posted for anything more that I make for him in the near future. I have 2 more projects, works in progress, to share with you this week. The first one is something that I have shared on the podcast previously, but not for a very long time. This is something that has been languishing, and I finally picked it up again this week. And this probably is going to meet mixed opinions, shall we say, because of the type of project that it is, because of the type of yarn that it uses. But to be perfectly honest, you guys, it makes me happy. I know it's not for everybody, but I like it, and that is this project. So for those of you who've been watching right from the beginning, this was one of the first projects that I shared when I started doing a podcast format on this channel. This is my Bagpuss Jumper, which is made from this kind of crazy yarn from Big Crocodile knits. It's very, very squishy and fuzzy, and yes, it's synthetic. It's manufactured in Italy, 100% kind of microfiber, synthetic man-made fibre. But what I have been doing is I have the peach tone and the white, and I've been striping them up in the body of this sweater. This sweater is a pattern that I have adapted from a vintage knitting book, which is basically a very simple, close-fitting, short-sleeved sweater. It was originally knit in pieces, but I've adapted the pattern for it to be knit in the round. So I've literally just been knitting and knitting and knitting and knitting. I picked this up this week just because I thought it was about time to get some of these languishing whips off the needles. And I have completed the body now up to the armholes. So this will fit up to the armholes. I now need to split this project, so work on one half at a time to do from the armhole up to the top, and then I will just need to knit the sleeves, which I will be knitting flat. And I know a lot of people might not necessarily like this and think, oh, it looks really cheap and it's a bit like, you know, like fun fur or something like that, but it works for what I want it to be. And I do love, you know, hand dyed and, you know, I have a lot of beautiful yarns and I love them for what they are. But sometimes for the right project, something like this works really, really well. And I'm very happy with how it's looking. And I think it's going to be super cute. Just wearing this with like jeans or something will be a really, really cute outfit. And it makes me happy. And it reminds me of Bagpuss. So yeah, I picked that up again and I'm excited to be working on it again, to be honest. One more work in progress, and this is something that I have made very little progress on it so far. It's something that I was talking about in my July favourites video as a pattern that I've been eyeing up for a while, and that is the Chuck sweater, which is this beautiful cropped cable Aran weight sweater, which I've been wanting to work on for a very, very long time. And I finally cast it on this week. And as you can see, I haven't really got that far so far. It has a really interesting construction, which I won't go into too much detail about, but it involves starting your shoulders separately and then picking up stitches between them to make the shape that you're after, which I've never done before, and I found it really, really interesting, so that was really fun to do. I'm knitting this on my old faithfuls. These are my higher sharp interchangeable needles. It's a 5mm needle, which is a US 6, I believe, or is it US 8? A US 8 needle, which is a lot bigger than I've been working on recently, so it's quite fun because it, I think, will grow very, very quickly. The yarn that I'm using is actually yarn from a frogged project. I believe this is Knitpicks in their Aran weight, and the colour is this kind of grey-green colour. It's called Cadet, because I think it looks quite army utilitarian kind of colour, but I really like it, and it's really nice to be knitting something entirely from yarn that I have in stash. So all I needed to do was purchase the pattern and I could go straight away. So that's what I've been working on. So that's everything for what's on my needles this week. So I think we should move on to sew what? Because I did manage to get some sewing done this week in addition to all of the knitting that I've been doing. And the thing that I finished, as I have a finished object, is my Clemence skirt. Dancing skirt. And I actually wore this yesterday at Fibre Easty because I had to have it finished. I just had to have it finished because it's covered in yarn and I was at a yarny festival and it just had to happen. So I hemmed this yesterday morning before leaving, and it's now completely finished. I absolutely love this. I could see myself making so many versions of this skirt. I showed you the majority of the details of this skirt last week, so I'm not going to go through all of those again. Check out last week's episode number 27, if you want to see the more ins and outs of this. But the main thing that I did was my hem which I turned up, as you can see, and then turned under again, and did a very, very close, about 1/8 of an inch of sewing away from that turned edge. When I sew my hem, I do like to do it from the wrong side as opposed to the right side, just to know that I'm getting that close to that edge and therefore catching the raw edge underneath it really nice and neatly. And in general, what I'll do is press my hem first at the length that I want it. I'll then turn over the raw edge and press it again. And I find that that gives a really crisp edge to be able to sew against, and it means that my hem stays really straight and really consistent across the whole thing, which for someone like me, who's a little bit of a perfectionist, makes me really, really happy. This is, of course, a pattern from the lovely Tilly and the Buttons book, which is Love at First Stitch. It is the second pattern that I have made from it recently, and I'm just in love with it as a book. You should really get yourself a copy if you're looking for some nice staple pieces for your wardrobe. But yeah, I'm really, really happy with how that's turned out. And again, finishing a full garment and being able to wear it right away, and also know that everything is going to go with it, because my Featherweight cardigan and my skirt I feel look really cute together. So it's just step after step towards getting a really lovely, consistent wardrobe. And as I've said many times in this episode, that's making me very, very happy. The other thing that I wanted to talk about in Sew What is, of course, the Hollyburn Sew Along, which will be starting pretty much from tomorrow. We are going to be sewing along together the Sewaholic pattern, the Hollyburn skirt, and I am going to be posting lots of tutorials about how to do pretty much everything in the process of this. So from cutting out the pattern, picking what size would be right for you, to the complete construction of the skirt. So I don't really have an update for you. There's been no new videos this week for the sew along or anything like that, but I wanted to put your minds at rest if you're a little anxious about starting, that I do have some time coming up over the next week. I'm going to be doing a lot of the filming for the tutorials, and I'm going to be posting them up as soon as I possibly can. So as long as you've got all of your tools and your fabric at the ready, you are going to be good to go in literally a matter of days. Obviously, those among you who just want to make the skirt yourself and offer support to others, and then just maybe watch the tutorials as a fun addition, that's absolutely fine as well. And I wanted to remind people that in last week's video, I shared some links for adapting the pattern in case it doesn't come in your size. And of course, you are more than welcome to take part in this sew along using a different pattern if you find that one that is in your size that works better for you, because a lot of the techniques and tutorials that I will be sharing can be used across the board with any kind of skirt pattern. So feel free to do that. And if you are taking part in the sew along, please go along and join our Ravelry group, because we have an incredible group of people talking on the sew along thread already. They've been so supportive and so keen, and I know that everyone on there is really excited to get started. And do just head over and get involved. Okay guys, that is going to be everything in terms of my knitting and sewing progress for this week. The rest of the episode is all going to be about Fibre East. So if you're not interested, thank you for watching, but if you are keen to hear about my most recent Fibre Festival, then stay tuned. And at the end of me talking basically about how the day was and everything, I will be sharing my stash enhancements. So let's get started, shall we? So Fibre East. I have never been to Fibre East before, and I was really quite excited to go because I've heard lots of positive things, and also, as you know, I was planning on meeting in the flesh for the first time Mina and Vero, and also I ended up meeting Danny, which was amazing. But I always go to Fibre festivals with my mum, my lovely mum Anne, so hi mummy, and we have a lot of fun going to these things together. We've been to a fair few festivals together. We didn't actually start going to yarn festivals until September of last year, so we're relatively new to the festival scene. I didn't really even realise that it was a thing, to be honest, but I'm very, very happy to know about it now, because my goodness, yarn festivals are amazing. But Fibre East was actually, I think, quite different from a lot of other festivals that I've been to. It was a really good size. There was a huge variety of different stall holders, And also the thing that I loved the most was that they were representing pretty much every fibre craft out there. There were some incredible spinners with a variety of spinning wheels or drop spindles or other devices that I've never even seen to be used for spinning before, which was fascinating. There was crocheting stalls, obviously, lots of knitting, project bags, that type of thing, but it was just a really lovely representation of every kind of fibre craft. Felting was there as well, and it was really inspiring, and it made me want to kind of take up a lot of new hobbies. And the whole thing had a really positive and happy atmosphere, which was lovely. So obviously my mum and I wandered around together and we were just having a lovely time. And what we tend to do at festivals, which is always what I recommend, is to take note of what you like on your first rotation and not buy anything that first time, and then go back around again and go back specifically to the things that you've noted down to say that you like. I find it works well for me because I get very intoxicated by yarn fumes at festivals and go, I need to get all the things, and I could very easily spend all of my money within 5 minutes at one stall before I've even seen everything else. So I find for me that works best. Something else that I did this time, which I haven't actually done at previous yarn shows, is that there are some specific projects that I really wanted to work on and I knew that I wanted to buy yarn for. So I was looking for yarn specifically for those projects, and I found that helped curb my my over enthusiasm when it came to purchasing things that I would really, really love to have but didn't necessarily need. So my mum and I did our first loop of the whole festival, looking at everything, kind of taking a note of things that we liked. And I, during that kind of wandering around, bumped into both Vero and Mina, and we said hello, and it was lovely because we both kind of went, oh, it's so good to see you and meet you in real life, because we haven't actually met you before, even though I feel like I know you already. It's this lovely kind of slightly absurd thing that podcasting brings out, which is very, very funny. And yeah, we kind of said our hellos, we arranged where we were going to meet, and then around about 1 o'clock we had our podcaster meetup, which the organisers of Fibre Easty were very generous enough to kind of allocate us a little bit of space upstairs in one of the rooms where the exhibitions were going on, where the marketplace was. And loads of lovely people came to meet us, and thank you so much for everybody who came to our meetup, who sat down. We all kind of ate sandwiches and had snacks and got all our knitting out and were showing off our purchases, and it was just lovely. And obviously at the meetup, that was when I also met lovely Danny of the Little Bobbins podcast as well, and we were just chatting away like old friends about stalls and projects that we've been working on or that we want to work on, and we were all going nuts over the John Arbon yarn, although more on that later. But we were all very big fans of John Arbon, I think, between us, so there were definitely some purchases made from the John Arbon stand. After the meetup finished, we all kind of meandered off on our separate ways. In addition to the marketplace, they also had a sheep shearing experience, which was amazing. I was really happy to see the real sheep. I think that was probably the most exciting part of my day, when I met the real life sheep and was just like, they're here and they're so lovely and fluffy, and they looked really happy and contented. And the man who was shearing them and showing off his techniques was really great with the sheep. He was so chilled, and they were obviously really calm, and it was a lovely thing to see and experience. That was the point when me and my mum went back and we made some purchases, which I will be showing you in a little bit, and I got pretty much everything that I wanted to get, that I'd kind of thought that I would want to purchase when I was there, which was wonderful, although I was tempted by a lot more, but I think I've been relatively responsible in my spending. The other lovely thing that was happening really regularly throughout the day was what I had said last week on my podcast, is that I would love it if you watch my podcast, if you'd come and said hello to me. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who came and made the effort to speak to me yesterday, because I know what it's like. I get very anxious to talk to new people anyway, and I must admit I was a little nervous to go to Fibre East because I thought, oh, what if I come across really badly or I don't say the right thing to people? But you guys just make everything so easy for me. You are amazing. Everybody who came and said hello to me was so positive and friendly, and I think I had really good chats with everybody. I just wanted to say to each and every one of you, you completely made my day yesterday. Probably one of the reasons why I enjoyed myself so much was just having those conversations with you about the podcast and hearing that it makes you happy, and that it's someone said that it was the bright point of their week every Monday when I upload, and it just took my breath away because I love doing this podcast. It's a relatively large amount of work, if I'm honest, to do it regularly every week, but I do it because I absolutely love it, and to me it's the highlight of my week. So to hear other people saying that back to me kind of makes it even more special. So thank you for your support. Thank you for the love that you sent me, and thank you for being brave enough to come and speak to me, because it meant everything. So I love you all. You're amazing. You're pretty much the best audience that a podcaster could want. And it was really nice to actually talk to my audience directly, as opposed to just being me sitting on my own talking to my camera. So it was amazing. You guys, basically, you're awesome, and I love you. And yeah, I can't really say anything more than that. But before I get too emotional, because let's be honest, we all know that I can get emotional on this podcast, I am now going to share with you my stash enhancements. Yay! I know you've all been waiting for this because I have some really, really fun things to share with you. My first purchase of the day was something that was a little bit silly, but when I saw it, I couldn't turn it down because it was everything that I wanted, and that is this mug. So if you can read what it says on this mug, it says, cake loving, yarn rubbing, tea glugging knitter. And that's pretty much the epitome of me, to be honest. Love the cake, love the yarn, love the tea. I'm a knitter, and as you'll know, if you're a regular watcher, I am obsessed with mugs. I love mugs. Mugs are one of my favourite things in the world. So I saw this. I think when I went there, they may have had more kind of out the back or something, but it was the last one of this particular saying on their little shelf, and I bought it right away. It was the first purchase I made. I was talking about doing a loop and then going back and buying things on the second loop. This I bought on the first one because I just went, that has to come home with me and live with me and be happy. But never fear, guys, the rest of my purchases were very much to do with yarny goodness as opposed to amazing mugs. So, as I was saying earlier, during my conversations with Vero and Mina and Danny, we were all raving about John Arbon. And I have, to be honest, heard about John Arbon through both Vero and Danny, because Danny purchased yarn from John Arbon previously, and she purchased a sweater's quantity of yarn from John Arbon from the Knit by Numbers collection, which is basically beautiful DK weight and 4-ply. They now have yarn in a million different colorways. Literally, they have so many beautiful colors. It's kind of insane. And when I'd seen that yarn on Danny's podcast, I thought, this would be the perfect yarn for the Sophie cardigan, which is the other cardigan, the other kind of sweater cardigan pattern that I talked about on my July favourites. So I went to Fibre East with the intention of purchasing some of the Knit by Numbers DK yarn for this specific cardigan. That's all I really wanted. If I came away from Fibre East with nothing more than the yarn for that sweater, I'd have been happy. But I made a beeline towards John Arbon because I knew out of all of the colours that they had, I'm sure I would be able to find one that I liked. And I did. But it's not the yarn that I was anticipating to buy. Now, I looked at all of the Knit by Numbers colours, and they are absolutely beautiful. But as I was looking through, I was finding it difficult to find a tone that I really, really loved. There were lots of colours that I could see myself using, and I know for a fact that I will definitely be buying more Knit by Numbers yarn in the future for sweaters and that type of thing. But my eyes settled on one particular colour and I just grabbed it because I was just like, that is the most amazing thing that I've ever seen. And I pulled it out of their big rack. They had something similar to this with lots of yarn stacked up. I pulled it out of one of the little pigeonholes, and I realised it wasn't actually Knit by Numbers yarn at all. Still produced by John Arbon Textiles, but it is this yarn, which is called Viola. I don't know if you can see Viola. Yeah, there you go, on the label. And the thing that really drew me to this yarn is that it is, again, it's 100% merino, so the same blend that the Knit by Numbers is, which is so soft, it's amazing. But the colourway is really quite heathered. So it's green, obviously it's green, but in the actual dye there are blue tones and yellow tones, and it's not quite as solid as the Knit by Numbers colours were. And to be honest, when I saw this and I saw the depth in the colour of this yarn, as much as I loved the Knit by Numbers colours, this just was everything and I couldn't not get it. So I purchased 4 skeins, there they all are, 4 skeins of the Viola yarn, and it's in the Aquarius colourway, which is just this beautiful kind of forest green, and I'm obsessed with this colour. I cannot wait to knit the Sophie cardigan in this colourway. It's going to be incredible. I'm so happy. And this was basically the first yarny purchase of my day, and I couldn't be happier with it. Also, they did give me this really cute tote bag. I just love how their signage is with the John Arbon Textiles. I think it's really pretty. It's right up my alley, basically. So I didn't quite get what I was anticipating to buy because, like I said, it's not... Just flicking that in my face. But like I said, it's not Knit by Numbers, but it is perfect and exactly what I wanted. It's in a really nice autumnal colourway, which I've come to realise and accept is the type of colour that I will wear all the time. So I know that this is going to get a lot of wear and a lot of love, and I am really, really happy with it. So my next purchase is a little bit different for me. When I was walking around the festival, one thing that I was trying to avoid buying was sock yarn. And you may think that's sacrilege to say something like that. But the fact of the matter is the majority of my stash, and this is kind of my indie yarn stash, it's not my whole stash. I got a whole load of other stuff just over here that you can't see, but I have a lot of sock yarn. I have a lot of self-striping colourways. I have a lot of specific indie dyed yarn that I would just use for socks. And as much as I love sock yarn and I could literally buy it until the cows come home, I thought I want to make sure that I'm not just buying things for the sake of buying things, and that I have more of a specific project in mind, or that I'm buying something that's just a little bit different and a little bit special. And something that has become quite popular in the States but hasn't really started spreading over in the UK, at least in my experience, is sock blanks. Everybody's talking about sock blanks, and I have yet never knitted with one, never knitted with a sock blank. And I came across this incredible stall. It was called Truly Hooked Hand-Dyed Yarns, and the owner of this stand, the colours that she had dyed up in her yarn, it was bright neon pinks and blends of different colours, and she had one that I completely lost my head over, which was all these kind of neon but almost pastel neons, and it was called Unicorn Tail or something like that. And yeah, I'm very, very into unicorn colourways, and I really was thinking about getting that. And then I noticed that she also had a selection of sock blanks available, and I thought, do you know what? I've never knit with a sock blank before, And that might be a good reason in my head to buy something that is basically sock yarn, because I'm telling myself that I haven't ever used it before. So lo and behold, I bought a sock blank. Look at these colours, you guys. So it starts off with the pink and the blue. It goes into this kind of green, goes into yellow, goes into orange, goes into this pinky, purpley colour, and then goes back through the rainbow in the other direction. And it is called Blackened Pastel Bow. So it's basically a slightly pastel neon rainbow with these black splodges through it. And I just loved it. It's also on a stellina base, so it does have sparkle in there. Sparkly, sparkly. And yeah, I really just fell in love with it, and I thought, I bet that's going to knit up into some really fascinating and interesting socks. And the cool thing about it as well is because the colours pretty much mirror, you could get almost an identical pair of socks out of these, depending on how you knitted with them. I'm not sure whether that's something that I will try and do, but I might just want the socks to be completely different. But it's interesting to know that I could try if I wanted to. But this is the label, so Truly Hooked. And yeah, I'm really, really happy with that purchase, because like I said, technically it's sock yarn, but it's so different because I've never used a sock blank before that I think it'll be fun. It'll be a fun experience, and I'll be able to see firsthand whether or not this is something that I enjoy working with. I did make one more yarny purchase at Fibre East, and this was completely and utterly enabled by lovely Mina. Mina was showing me some of her purchases when we were at the meetup and we were eating our sandwiches and stuff, and she showed me, she was going through all of her purchases, and my goodness, Mina just made me want to go back and buy everything, because when I saw some of the colourways and things that she had bought, I was just like, that's amazing, that's amazing, that's even more amazing, which is why sometimes it's not the best thing to be going around a yarn festival with other really fibre obsessed friends, because it's dangerous, you guys. You're gonna spend some money, you're gonna do some damage. But one thing that she did share with me was, we were talking about John Arbon. As I said, I keep going on about John Arbon and his stand. Next door, she had said, and I picked up this. And she showed me a gradient set, and I believe Mina's was blue gradients. And she said it was just next to the stand for the John Arbon, and it was beautiful. And she said, I've purchased this, and I've also purchased this extra skein so that I can maybe do a sweater or something like that. And I just looked at it and I thought, I've been dying to knit something on a gradient for such a long time. I really have. It really interests me, the idea of knitting with gradient yarn. And the only gradient yarn sets that I have seen online have been available in the States, which would obviously cost me a lot of money to get here in the UK, and then I'd probably have to pay import tax, and I had avoided buying any gradient sets because I just thought, no, it's going to be too expensive. And when I saw this set that Mina was showing me, I just went, I need one. I need one. And I knew that I was going to be going back to the John Arbon stand anyway to make my purchases. And incidentally, my mum also purchased some John Arbon yarn. So I think they did pretty well from all of us, to be honest. I'm not sponsored by John Arbon. I keep talking about them. It's just because I'm a big fan. But I knew that I was going back to that stand, and therefore I'd be able to look at the one that was just next door. And I completely lost my heart, and I purchased a gradient set, which is this one. So the company for this is called Woo Sheeps, as you can see. And yes, this is particularly amusing because of the name of the gradient set, which I'm going to show to you. I know, I have the sense of humour of a 10-year-old boy, and I find that very funny. But basically, I asked at this stand, I said, the name of the set, is that the name of the sheep? that it came from, because she had Angus sets and Dick sets and Bruce sets and all these different things. And she said, no, it's the name of the yarn base. She said some people name their yarn bases after, you know, fancy schmancy things or girls' names. And she says, we're just a lot more down to earth. So we named our bases Tom, Dick and Harry. And then when they added an Australian base, that was called Bruce, and then a Scottish base, and it was called Angus, and that's where it came from. So that is where the name of the gradient set came from, but the yarn base came from. So glad we got that out of the way. But this gradient set is called Stormy Monday, and I just love it. It is incredible. It starts off at this really dark grey and then goes all the way through to this much lighter grey at the bottom. It is 100% superwash BFL, and it's really soft to the touch. It's absolutely beautiful. I managed to have a good squeeze of some samples that they had, and they were lovely. They're approximately 200 meters each because they're 50 gram skeins, and they are 4-ply weight. And when I bought this, I originally thought what I would use it for would be another featherweight cardigan, because when I made my first featherweight cardigan with Voolevine Yarns, I managed to knit the entire thing out of less than 2.5 skeins of yarn. And obviously this would end up being 250 grams of yarn, and therefore it would even out. However, when I thought about it, the way that the featherweight cardigan is knit is from the top down, and then you pick up stitches around the neckline in order to do the collar. So the collar is done separately. And I thought that's probably going to be really irritating to me and is going to interfere with the gradient. So I thought, oh no, I'm not going to be able to do a featherweight, and I'm not sure if I can find another cardigan that would be able to work with this amount of yarn. And then I went to Ravelry, good old Ravelry, and I basically changed some of the filters around, you know, fingering weight, seamless sweater, because I wanted it seamless so that I could use the gradient. And I found this pattern. I believe it's called Risen, but it's by Melanie Berg. And in case you're wondering why I say Melanie Berg in that way, it's because she designed the void shawl, which I did a knit along with Eric, and I'm obsessed with it and I loved it. And so to find another Melanie Berg pattern that would probably work with this yarn made me really, really happy, because I absolutely loved working on her project previously. This is a cardigan which has 3/4 length sleeves. It has a little bit of cabling detail around the cuffs of the sleeves and the hem around the bottom of the sweater, but it has a collar that is knit as a part of the cardigan as you go, so it doesn't involve picking up stitches later. And I just thought it was beautiful. It's a lot longer than I would knit the cardigan. I prefer my cardigans to end kind of just below my waist, but I thought that will actually work well because I have slightly yet less yardage than is needed for the size that I would want to make, but I'm sure I could adapt that by just changing the length of the sweater, making it a little bit shorter, and then it will work with this gradient set perfectly. So it's all ended up working out quite well, because I am now going to be getting another cardigan that's quite similar to the featherweight, but is a different design by one of my favourite designers, and it's going to work with this and it's not going to interfere with the gradient, and I'm going to have another gorgeous sweater to wear. I don't know what the best practice will be for this in terms of knitting with the gradient, and should I just go directly from one colour to another, or I don't know, maybe slip stitches or something, I don't know. I've never worked with a gradient before, so like I said, it will be a learning experience. But if you have any tips or tricks and you've knit with a gradient set before, I'd be really interested to know your thoughts. And yeah, just pop a comment down below if you know anything about blending these, because I don't think it will be a problem with the darker colours, but there's quite a difference between these bottom two tones, and I don't want it to look too stark, the difference between the two. But yeah, I am very, very excited to use this. And another cardigan. All of the cardigans that I'm going to have at this rate, it's going to be amazing. I just love them. I love them. I have one more purchase from Fibre Easty to share with you. And this was actually purchased as a gift for me by my lovely mum, who is so generous and kind. And I had spotted this project bag when we were walking around, and for obvious reasons, you'll see why I liked it so much. But the company is called Pink Hazel. When I saw this bag, I just lost my head over it because it's so amazing, and you will soon see why. It's a honeycomb bee bag. Look at those little bees. Aren't they just gorgeous? So this is a drawstring bag, and it's nice and big because I was in the market for a larger bag because of all of the sweater projects that I've been working on recently. I thought I really need a good big size bag to be able to put all of these sweaters and cardigans in them when I'm working on it. We saw it hanging up and I just loved it anyway, so I took it down, and the lady at the stall said, "You do know it's got pockets inside as well." And if I can just show you, on one side it has a zipped pocket, and that has a orange zip, and the inside is again that grey that's on the inside lining. But on the other side it has another pocket in there in the honeycomb fabric, and this one has a magnet attachment. So it basically means that when you're working on this bag, you can have all of your little bits and pieces. You know, you can put your measuring tape in there, you could put your scissors in there, you could put snacks in there, because let's be honest, we all get hungry when we're knitting on things, and like a really good little snack pocket in there, and it's just the best. It also has a handle in addition to the drawstring tabs. It has this little this nice strong handle on the end, so you can just carry it by that, and I love it. I am obsessed with it. It's really squishy. It's really, really well enforced. It can stand up very easily on its own. You can see there's nothing in this at the moment, but it's keeping that shape really well. It's like a boxed bottom on it. And by the way, the seam matching on this bag is just incredible. I get really excited by things like perfectly matched seams, and this bag has all of that going on. So like I said, Pink Hazel, the company that made this, but it's now my go-to bag for sweaters. So the next sweater that I cast on is going to live in this bag and it's going to be really happy, and I'm obsessed with it. I think it's amazing, and it's got bees on it. Oh, I love the bees. Okay guys, that is everything for this week. Thank you for sticking with me through this slightly different episode. Please do check out my Fibre East vlog, which I made when I was wandering around at the Fibre Festival, which was lots of fun. I do love a good vlog. If you've enjoyed this video, please like it. If you're new, please subscribe. I upload very regularly on this channel. My podcast comes out every Monday, but I am getting into the habit of uploading smaller intermittent videos each week as well. And to know when they're coming, subscribing is the best way to make sure that you're always up to date as to what videos I've posted. So yeah, click that subscribe button, you know, if you feel like it. I hope you all have an amazing week. Again, I shall be back next week with more yarny goodness, and all of the things that you have missed from this week will be included next week. So it gives you even more reason to come back. But yes, I hope you have an incredible week. Happy sewing, happy knitting. I love you all. Until I see you again. Bye! You can tell everybody that this is your song. It may be quite simple, but now that it's done, I hope you don't mind, I hope you don't mind that I put down in words how wonderful life is. Now you're in the